What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Team Member Perspective Podcast Training Show. We are going to be starting a new series, and it's going to be called the Team Member Breakthrough Series. And in this series, we're going to be interviewing top producing team members and going through each of their stories to learn a little bit more about their breakthroughs. And I'm very excited about today's episode. We've got a special guest, Jordyn Ahlgrim. Jordyn, I'm pronouncing that right.
You are.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Jordyn has been in the business, 3 years now, Jordyn?
Yes, almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years. And she's been part of our group for a while. And I've seen her consistency. She is a top producer. She's writing over $100,000 in annual life insurance premium every year, and she's crushing it. She is always at the top in our leaderboard, and it's been fun to see her grow. Jordyn, I know you had mentioned to me, you said, look, Coulter, I was about ready to quit. I was ready to quit insurance. And so you went from almost quitting insurance to now doing, over $100,000 in annual life insurance premium. Let's kind of go back to Jordyn when you were about ready to quit. Okay. Can you take us back to where you were mentally and emotionally before
Oh,
kind of
sure.
this breakthrough?
Yeah, when I was there, it was a really rough place because I was super discouraged. I wasn't making any money, and I was getting so many no's that like a yes was a surprise. I was like, oh, really? And so that was such a bad place to be. I don't think that I had a good one, my confidence was also super down, but I didn't have a good rhythm of consistency. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know how to kind of overcome what I was going through. Like, I didn't know how, I had watched some other, maybe like podcasts or even seen these other team members that were like thriving. And the only thing I could do was like make an excuse of like, oh, well, the reason why they're doing that is because maybe they live in a rich area or they're getting 100 leads a week or whatever the excuse was. I think I was in that like toxic mindset of like, oh, this sucks for me. Everyone else has like a reason why it worked for them. And I just wasn't applying it to myself, basically.
Yeah. And it's very interesting you say that, because I think every team member has been through that. Some team members that are listening to this might be there.
Yeah.
It's a mental toll. It's a mental battle. It's an emotional roller coaster. And, it's very easy to fall into that trap of starting to almost play the victim, right?
Yeah.
But it's easy to do that because it's like things just aren't working. And it's easy to just kind of go to negative town a little bit when things aren't falling into place. And sales is hard, right? Like when you got into insurance, if you're like me, it's like, this is a whole new language. People don't even understand this language. And now I'm tasked with not only learning this language, learning all of the systems to do everything correctly, but I'm also tasked with trying to help people have more protection, get more coverage, sell more insurance. So it can be very difficult, right?
Right.
So was there like a moment for you when you thought like, maybe this just isn't for me? Like what was going through your head? I mean, you were getting all these no's. What
Yeah,
was
I
going through
remember
your head?
having well, it's so funny because there's kind of like an ongoing inside joke with me and my agent. Now, I don't think he'll ever audibly admit this, but I couldn't sell any PNC. So he put me into this like onboarding role. Well, onboarding was fine because there was no sales pressure. I was just doing everybody's onboarding, and if there was any other policies, I would just tell the other team member, "Hey, go write this other policy." But then also, I wasn't making any money. So the only other option was to sell life insurance. And so it was kind of like, okay, here's like basically our last option for you, or maybe this isn't the industry for you. So that was like a big wake up call of like, okay, like I really need to get serious about it. And like in that exact month, and my agent, love him so much. He's actually one of my good friends personally too, but love him so much because he also was like, hey, I've heard really good things about this training program called Team Member Perspective. It like went into your story a little bit and was like, hey, it's coming directly from like team members. It's not like an agent telling you what to do. So it's going to be a lot of people of your peers telling you what works for them. So that may help you get some more training and build some more confidence too. And it did. It really did. So I think that I was just at a like, who or get off the pot kind of thing. And
Mhm.
it just like jumped me into gear, I think, to be motivated to get rid of the excuses, have a positive mindset, and try my best.
I love it. It can be difficult. It's
Yeah.
easy to have that mindset, and I think if we let it sit and marinate, then it's very easy to kind of go down that rabbit hole of
Yeah.
kind of just negativity a little bit. And it happens. It's difficult. This is a difficult role. But I guess for you, you started in this trend, generalist role, then you go to an onboarding role, and then you eventually are in a life specialist role. When you transition from this onboarding role to a life specialist role, and now you're just mainly focusing on life insurance, did things just kind of start happening? Did you start just selling life insurance right away?
I started bringing it up for sure. I didn't have the best pivots. I didn't have a lot of product knowledge, but I talked to other team members from TMP. I talked to our office manager a lot. I was on the phone with Life Company a lot. And so my pivots initially were as simple as, well, what are you doing about your life insurance? And eventually, as I became a little bit more confident, and something I learned along the way that it made me become a lot more successful is I learned how to make it make sense for the insured rather than just, and you talk a lot about this culture of like earning the right to pivot. And that's something that really resonated with me because at the end of a conversation with an insured, I was just throwing out, well, what are you doing about your life insurance? And that was, I would probably close 20% of those conversations, but I was only closing 20%. So I was still having these other 8 conversations that I felt in my mind not were a waste, but they weren't productive in that way that I wanted them to be. And so learning how to make it make sense for the insured also was a game changer for me, and not only in the amount of apps that I wrote, but in the amount of premium that I wrote also.
Very interesting. Yeah. We're in kind of a unique space where we're selling life insurance in that all of our customers and prospects that we get to talk to, they don't really know us for life insurance, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
And,
people
and
tell
they
me that every
think,
day.
yeah, they're like, well, I didn't know you did that, Jordan. You're like,
Yeah.
yes, we did, right? Yep. As a team member, I remember having those conversations just like you that like, I didn't really know how to be effective in my conversations for life insurance, but I just started somewhere. Like
Right.
just simply bringing it up. And it
Right.
reminds me of this book that I've got. It's Do More Now, Get Better Later. And I believe that that's what allowed me to start to be consistent and start to actually sell was that I committed just like you, like I'm just going to do more. I'm going to bring up life insurance and, we start to sell policies, right? Just by simply doing more. And so for a lot of team members listening to this, that might be the answer for you to get to that next level is just do more. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to know everything. You're going to learn as you do more, but just simply doing more, I think is maybe where a lot of team members listening to this might need to focus.
Yeah, I think that if I were to go back to myself, right, like me now, to go to like the girl who's like going home and crying to her husband every night about like, I don't think that this is for me. I don't think that I can do this. I would like one, like give her a hug, but like I would like very practically just ask every single person that you talk to. I know that people already say that, but it's just like if you were to ask every single person that you talk to and then just develop better conversation, like better conversations there, you'll learn in every single conversation that you have. You'll learn more. You'll know how to overcome more objections. And something that I would tell myself also is like, if you bring it up and they still say no, still give them a quote, still give them a price, because there have been more than 25 apps that I wrote last year. They said, no, I'm good. I already have it. Or no, I'm whatever the reason was. And I said, well, okay, if we just did this, it would only be X amount. Oh, really? That's it? And then we're already there, right? So I would say, no matter what, always ask and always at least give them a price, give them a quote, because you just never know.
I love that. We talk about that a lot. And I think it's one of these things that people in general overestimate the cost of life insurance.
Right.
I think the number is like by 80%. So they think it's way more expensive than it actually is. And so a lot of team members that are getting that early no and just taking it for what it is and not just saying and giving them an option, giving them some sort of offer or a price, I think they're leaving a lot on the table, right? And I think it's as simple as that. Like, totally understand. If we did this, it's almost like, I get what you're saying, Jordan, but I still am going to quote you this. If we did just this is what it would be. And then people are like, oh my gosh, that's it. Well, let's do it. All right. So I love that. I think First and foremost, team members listening to this, agents listening to this, like evaluate your activity within life insurance. And I know it's like we're beating a dead horse, right? Like the more conversations you have about life insurance, the more you're going to sell, right? That's step one, right? Just do more now and get your mindset, frame it for yourself in a way that's like, okay, I'm going to do more so that I can learn to be better. Because I don't know about you, Jordan, but for me, when training really sticks and where I feel like I can really make progress in my conversations is when I first have context, meaning I've been in the trenches. I've asked people about life insurance.
Yeah.
I've done it a lot to where now I know where I'm kind of getting stuck. Now I know
Exactly.
where the customer's telling me no or the conversation's stopping because I've done it. I'm doing it.
Mhm.
And so then when training hits or when I'm around a top producer or, we're learning a new way to bring up life insurance, all of a sudden I have a place to hang my hat. It's like, oh, this makes a lot of sense what you're saying here, Jordan, because I've had 30 conversations and this is where I'm actually getting stuck right here every time. I
Mhm.
love the way that you actually pivot into life insurance there. Now I'm going to try that. And all of a sudden we're at a new level with our conversations.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Something that one of my like big losses that hurt real bad in 2024 is I sold a large life policy maybe midsummer, end of summer. Well, he ended up canceling his application because he said, "Oh, I could just put this in the stock market and it grow better for me." And so he never followed through with it. And had I not, well, it's okay in retrospect, but now it's like I know now how I could have controlled that conversation to keep that policy, like so it's just every even so I think even in your losses, you'll still learn some things and you'll still find a place to hang your hat, because every conversation really is going to make you better. And I know that we, talk about beating a dead horse, but I really truly believe that. And also I think it's really easy to make an excuse of like our office, we're located in Deer Park, Texas, which is like a tiny, tiny, tiny city in South Houston area. Nobody is wealthy over here. And so I think it's very easy to make an excuse of like, oh, well, you have this, you have that, you have XYZ. But it's just, I think everybody can do it. In 2024, that was the first year that I ever sold a life policy, other than what I already wrote from me and my husband. But that was the first time I ever wrote anything. And so I think that not only can you do it, but you can be very successful even in your first year.
Whew. Your first year. And remind us how much life premium you did.
Whew, I think I did. Total premium was around 102, and I think I ended the year with exactly 110 apps. So,
Wow.
and that's not to say that I didn't have my own losses or my own like bad days, right? I think I told you the story before, Coulter, but in I want to say September or October, I was going, and now I'm primarily only focused on life insurance as a salesperson or as a team member in its entirety, but I had gone in this week in September, October. It was like Wednesday at this point. I hadn't sold anything, so I'm starting to get a little discouraged, right? And I have some follow ups to do. I have some conversations to have. By lunchtime, I had gotten 12 no's, where it's like either 12 follow ups that I did, or 12 presentations that I did, or a mixture of all of those things. And 12 people told me, no, I don't want that, or no, I'm not interested anymore, or no, 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 no. And I remember I was like, okay, maybe this is a good time to take lunch because that is super discouraging. That is so hard to have 12 no's back to back, especially whenever that's your entire pipeline, right? And so I remember I went into my car. I had a little moment of like, oh my gosh, this is the worst ever. Should I quit? Like, this is so bad, And then it's like, no, it's fine because Jordan, you've had moments just like this before where you've been able to turn it around. Like, one or a lot of no's does not mean that you're gonna get a no next time. I came back from lunch and I sold 4 policies that day, and the rest of the week I sold like another. By the end of the week, I had eight to 10 policies total. So it just goes to show that even the top producers, they still have their bad moments, they'll still have their bad days, they still get a lot of no's, right? But it's just like that's okay. I no longer let it shake me anymore. Before I really would, and now it's like I don't let that negative mindset take over anymore. And that's something that also has been a big game changer for me.
I absolutely love that. I think like that's a very powerful story. Team members that are listening to this, 12 no's, not just one or two, 12. I want you to think about that. No, no, 12 of them. That's crazy. It is very discouraging.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy cow.
It's like,
Okay.
yeah, am I even good at this? Like, do I even know what I'm talking about?
Right.
And
And,
it's
and
like,
this is
what the heck?
September. Like you've been selling life insurance up to this
Yeah.
point.
Consistently with really good numbers, like, and I heard no before, and so I felt like I was pretty decent at overcoming objections. I was pretty good at, like, I had a pretty good closing ratio, and it's just like I was like, whoa. And so I mean, so all of that to say that it happens to the best of us, right? Keep a positive mindset and just on to your next. It's so funny because that day, what happened was whenever I came back from lunch, one of the no's, he called me back and he was like, well, my wife was overhearing that conversation and she told me that I was crazy if I didn't do it. And then so we ended up doing one for his entire family. And so you just never know. And also, even if you're getting a no, that does not mean no forever. Call them back in 2 months. Call them back whenever. Because it's like I also tell a lot just by not letting a no now be a no forever.
I love it. And I think, you talk about developing this positive mindset. And I think a misconception that maybe a lot of people have in life, in sales, is that this positive mindset just all of a sudden just happens. And that when we have a positive mindset, we will always have a positive mindset.
Yeah.
However, I don't think it's true. I think it's the daily decision to continue to show up, to even after 12 no's, to continue to show up. I think it's a constant thing. It's a constant battle. It's, I always say that nothing in sales, nothing in life is permanent.
Yeah.
Everything's temporary. And being able to continue to show up after 12 no's, Jordan, like that's crazy to me. That is so crazy to me, but it's a lot of team members need to hear this because especially, in our group, Jordan, I know people know your numbers. You're on our leaderboard. Like you are a top producer in our group, but all these team members, the only thing that they see is those wins.
Yeah.
They see, oh, Jordan did $102,000 in life insurance premium in 2024. But what they don't see is the 12 no's the day that, that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so I think it's very important right there. I think that lesson alone, if those of you listening to this, I feel like if you can develop that mindset that Jordan has of just continuing to show up, regardless of what the customer says, I feel that will allow you to be successful in this business.
I agree.
It's not easy, right?
It's not easy.
It's not easy. And just because you did it that one day, Jordan, you've got those 12 no's, you're probably going to run into that again. And it's not going to be maybe really any easier, but you're going to be stronger. You're going to have a stronger mindset and confidence and understanding that like, this is just the game.
Mm-hmm.
This is just the game. I believe that salespeople that are top producers have just learned to deal with some sort of pain and uncertainty because they've been through it and they're continuing to go through it, but they've gotten better and stronger in going through it.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's almost like rejection therapy where it's like, not everybody's going to tell you yes. And so the first few no's hurt, right? If you get a lot of no's in a row, that hurts. One, you could probably, what I could have done better is probably do better like sales presentation on the front end to not get no's. So I know like basically how I would redo those, but you're going to get a lot of no's. And that's still okay. That's just like the part of the game, right? And like if your emotions or your, not necessarily emotions, but yeah, your mindset is attached to your sales, then when you have a good month, you're going to be so happy. Whenever you're having a bad week, oh, it's going to be horrible. And it's like, but if you can keep a positive mindset consistently, then whenever you're having a slow week, that negative mindset won't seep into your next sale or seep into your next conversation, right? And that's where the change happens. That's when the resiliency, that's where you're able to pull yourself out of a funk that you may be having.
Yeah. So Jordan, kind of talk to us a little bit about like this positive mindset. Like, are there certain things that you do now that almost set you up on a consistent basis to have a positive mindset?
I think so. I think that it's very important to, one, I stopped making excuses of like, oh yeah, Joe can write 300 life apps a year because of XYZ, whatever. I stopped making excuses, right? It's like, well, if he can do it, then why can't I? That's one thing. That's one thing that's like really, I still believe. And I also believe that it's just important to surround yourself with positive people professionally and personally. Like if you are around a lot of negative people, it's going to be easy to be negative. But if you surround yourself with a lot of positive people, it's going to be easy to be positive. And if you're in environment where you don't have like a positive outlet, then it's very important for you to be that positive outlet. My agent tells me like all the time that I'm like he says this nicely, but he means like the personality hire. And so he says like your attitude is like key, like it's very vital to the office because you have the ability to bring everybody up, right? And so it's like even if you're in an office or maybe in an environment personally, professionally, where there is not that positive atmosphere, you have to create that positive atmosphere. So, I mean, whatever that needs to look like for you personally, I definitely like have a lot of like quiet time with the Lord every morning that like really sets me straight. Like, I have a very loving relationship with my family that I'm really able to like internalize whenever like good days and bad days. So that's like where I drive mine from personally, but there has to be something that's driving you personally that you could like exude externally, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense. No, I love the idea of surrounding yourself with positive people.
Mm-hmm.
I also love the idea of just being the change that you want to see.
Yeah.
Like it starts with us.
Yeah.
And I really love that. And going along with this, I love the concept of don't give your pain a voice.
That's good.
Because I think it's so easy to complain.
Mm-hmm.
We get around complainers, and what type of effect does that have on us when people are complaining? For me, I'm like, I can't do it. Like, life's hard enough. I'm negative enough. I'm hard enough on myself that like, I don't want to be around this.
Yeah.
So the environment's huge, but also being that change. Like, don't give pain a voice. Yeah, you might be having a day, right, Jordan, where you're getting 12 no's, but don't give your pain a voice. You might be thinking like, man, well, I can't sell this because of this reason. So-and-so can sell it because of all of these reasons. All these excuses can enter in as thoughts, but they're just thoughts. We don't have to identify with those thoughts.
Sure.
And I think when we don't give them a voice, they have less power.
Oh, heck yeah.
They have less power. So I love that, Jordan. And I think it's huge. I think our mindset is big. And, you touched a little bit on your faith, which I think is really cool. I think it's really cool. The longer I've been in business, the longer I've, been in, my professional career, the more I'm starting to realize how much faith and spirituality and business really mesh and come together.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something there. And I also love the idea of things need to be going well at home. Things need like the relationship with your spouse, with your kids, with your parents, with your family. That is very important I believe, in our success in our professional careers. Because if things aren't going really too well at home, I think that's going to spill into your sales role in the agency.
I agree. I think it's going to taint. I think whatever's going on at home, good or bad, will affect what you're doing for work for the better or for the worse. So you may laugh, but I've always been kind of like a big believer of like, don't let the sun go down on your anger. So if something's going on, fix it, right? Get it resolved, get it, squared away at home or at work. That way the next day you can go in, with a completely fresh, positive mindset because I'm sure that, hopefully not, but I'm sure that some people in my office can attest when I'm having like a rough morning with the kids or whatever, then you can totally see that on my face. Whereas like if I'm having a great day, it's like, oh my gosh, you can totally see that on my face, right? So it's like, what can we do before we even get to the office to make sure that we set ourselves up to have a great day? And that's something that I try to be mindful of every morning.
Yeah, there's something there. There's definitely something there. I think, it's hard to out-strategize and outwork a negative state.
Yeah.
I really do believe that. I think it's very important to get our state right. And that for me, as a team member, when I started to understand the concept of start to work harder on yourself than you do on your business, right? And I was like, whatever. Like I had the mindset early on of like, as long as I'm working hard, I'll outwork anybody. And if I do that, I'm going to be successful. And I did have a lot of success by doing that. But what really took me to the next level was starting to work on myself, my personal development, getting my mindset right, getting my state right in a very predictable way to where every single morning I could show up to the office with a positive mindset, with positive energy, with some motivation, some energy to get the day going. Yeah. And it was almost like things became a lot easier for me to just basically have good conversations with people, but not let the no's and the low parts of the day completely derail my day or ruin my day. Right. And I think because of, that morning routine and that intentionality, and I think it all started with self-awareness of like, okay, I'm at my best when I feel prepared. I'm at my best when I do this stuff in the morning because it helps me think positively. It helps me, feel some sort of energy. And so it was the self-awareness of like, let's make that a habit. And when I made that a habit and I could predictably show up every day with that positive mindset, with this energy of like, let's go attack the day, that's when things really started to be more consistent and continue to take it to the next level. So I
Yeah,
love
I
that,
agree.
Jordan.
No, I agree. I think if you have a strong foundation personally, then all the no's, all the negative stuff. If you have a bad interaction with like a customer on the phone, all of that will more easily roll off your back, and you can just move forward without having like the ting of that if you have a strong foundation. So I'm definitely a huge believer in that for sure.
I love it. Well, let's get a little tactical, Jordan. So you wrote $100,000 in annual life premium last year.
hmm
Was there anything that you like changed on a tactical level in your conversation, or a few things that maybe you could share that allowed you to start to have this momentum?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that, and we talk a lot about this in TMP, but well, one, love TMP because it changed everything for me. But something that we talk a lot about in TMP, and I think rightfully so, because for me, it really changed going from like a girl like borderline about to get fired to like being pretty successful. Two big things are I really learned how, and you talk about this a lot, but like learning how to like make it make sense, or like earning the right to pivot of like why would somebody want to do this, and then also like not necessarily like finding a problem for the insured and then also finding a solution for that. So like you talk a lot about not being a problem solver and not a product pusher. So I think before, when I was not successful, I was like, oh yeah, well, what about life insurance? What about life insurance? And it was better than nothing, right?
Mhm.
Like that pivot's better than nothing, but it wasn't as effective. Like the closing ratio was not effective, right? It wasn't effective to sell a lot. So I really learned how to make it make sense, like earning the right to pivot, and then just showing literally somebody the value of like, hey, you know what? Whatever the policy is, like, hey, so this is going to come in to pay off your truck for your wife, and then it's going to take care of the rest of the mortgage. That way, God forbid, if the worst thing happens, at least we can have them in the house and they don't have to sell the car. That way she can take care of the kids and be emotionally strong for them. Making it make sense and not just be like, okay, well, what about $100,000 term? It's like they don't know what that is. Like you have to make it make sense for them. So those are two big things that like I still practice those things every single day, and it's still continuing to make me better. So those are two big things that I learned.
Those are great. Those are great. I think the more that we understand about people, about our customers, and about prospects,
hmm
and like what they're thinking about and their experience when they're talking with us, whether it's they're a current customer and they're calling in to pay a bill, or they just purchased a new car, maybe a new home, maybe they got a young driver. Like the more we understand about their world and their experience, the easier it is for us to make it make sense for them.
Yeah, yeah. And
And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, you're good. You
I was going to say, you bring up a good point because we have to know our customers first in order to help them make it make sense. So that's where we talk about like building form or just having a good rapport with somebody is really important. So whenever they call in, ask about the kids, ask, if they bought a new car, oh my gosh, cool, who's going to be driving this? Or, just having those initial conversations, not only to really make a relationship there, but to use that as like your fact finding, I guess like method of figuring out what may be in their best interest as far as, what can we protect for them.
I love it. I love it. And really for a long time, Jordan, I don't know about you, but like in sales, we always hear like put yourself in your customer's shoes. But I think it's like used so much that I was trying to do it, or at least I thought I was, but I wasn't actually doing it. I
Mhm.
stayed surface level with it. But what helped me to really start to understand my customer was to really just spend time thinking about what Jordan's thinking about when she calls me to make a payment,
Right.
but also like how does Jordan feel, for example, if she's calling in to add her 16-year-old as a driver? Or
Right.
Jordan just purchased a new home. What is Jordan thinking about? How is Jordan feeling with this new change? And thinking about what the customer thinks about, the prospect thinks about, but also how they are probably feeling, I think can help us really understand them more and really kind of offer life insurance in a way that makes sense to them.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then you mentioned, so make it make sense to them. And what was the other thing that you'd said?
Basically showing the value and not being like a
That's
product.
right. That's
Excuse
right.
me.
That's right. So, and you bring up a good point, right? And we talk about it a lot, but in insurance, insurance is a funny world. Like people don't like insurance.
Yeah.
People don't understand, they don't understand insurance. And so we're like in this area where it's so easy for people to just like decline life insurance, decline these different products because I don't need it. I've got it through work, right?
Hmm.
All of these surface level knee jerk responses come because of the industry we're in and because of like this insurance. It's a new language. People don't really understand it. But I think you nailed it right on the head that for me, when my conversations really were elevated, when I started to see my closing ratio increased, was when I understood that people don't understand the problem.
Yeah.
They really don't understand the exposure or the risk that they face by having a loan on a car, by having a mortgage on a home, by having, kids under the age of 5 that they need to provide for, by, buying a vehicle. And even though you're single, that like if you pass away and there's a loan on this vehicle, it doesn't just go away, right? People don't understand the real problem. Or
Right.
they think that the problem's really small. And so when we're trying to push life insurance, push the product, in their minds, they're like, well, I don't need it. I don't see why I would need it. I don't see why I would want it because they don't understand the problem or they
Right.
haven't thought about the problem. No one's ever really explained the problem to them. And so before we even become problem solvers, we need to be problem finders first.
Hmm.
And when we help them see the problem and understand the problem and the impacts that problem could possibly have on the people that they love,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, the solution to get life insurance actually carries weight.
I sold a policy yesterday because off of a car loan protection, and he's like, "Oh no, it's fine." We got initially it started out as like it was going in the wrong direction. We're like, no, it's fine. We don't need that. We have money in the bank to if so that she can pay that off if I die. She won't be worried about it. But then you have to play it out for them. So it's like go walk down that road with them of like, okay, if Coulter passes away, okay, Lacey, they have 20 grand in the bank. Good. So that you can pay off Coulter's truck, maybe, but now they're down to zero, right? They have nothing left. So what is Lacey going to do the next month? Whenever the mortgage comes due, and whenever the kids need new shoes for the summertime, and whenever we need groceries, right? It's like, and then he's like, oh yeah, I never thought about it like that. Oh my gosh, okay, like we need to be walking them down that path of, worst case scenario, because that's the whole point of the policy is to pay out in the event of the worst case scenario, right? And so if a lot of people are like, oh no, it's no, okay, okay, well then what does that look like? You show me, Coulter, what does that look like? Okay, so you have 20 grand in the bank, okay, so we can pay off the car, okay, or whatever. Now, and then what, right? And then what? So that's where it's become really important to me. Where I'm like, okay, yeah, then what? What about the
And then
mortgage,
what?
right? Yeah,
And then what? I love it.
yeah,
And Jordan, that concept of play it out for people, it's huge. It's huge. I think playing it out allows people to like go beneath the surface and really think like, okay, if I died today, what does that look like for my wife and my kids? Okay. And then what? Right. I love
right,
that, Jordan. I think it's huge. And it really just goes back to this, like we help them see the problem, understand the severity of the problem. And naturally now they want to hear more about how we could possibly solve it with a life policy.
right.
I think is huge. Okay, guys, this has been awesome. Jordan, there's so much golden nuggets in here. And I know those that are listening to this, I'm hoping you guys are picking up on this stuff because this has the ability to help you sell $100,000 in annual life insurance premium every year, just like Jordan's doing. Okay, so Jordan, if there's a team member that's listening to this right now and they feel stuck,
Mm-hmm.
they're discouraged. They're kind of, where you were, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're thinking, man, maybe this just isn't for me. Maybe I'm not built to sell. Maybe I'm not, maybe this just isn't for me. What's the first thing that you would tell them to do differently?
Besides join TMP, I would tell them, I would just tell them, take a breath, calm down. It will be okay. But something that I would tell them, it sounds like, or at least this is what I would tell myself. Whenever I was down in the ruts and I was like, oh my gosh, this is horrible, I would show them. Well, I think that the biggest thing is whenever we're down in the ruts is like confidence, right? It's like now, even if we have product knowledge, even if we have like maybe the ability to sell and we're just like in the lows, we need some confidence. I would tell them to look for an easy win, wherever that is, right? If you need to run a quick list or whatever, because once you get a quick little easy $20 app win, it's going to revitalize your confidence, and then it's just going to propel you to get the next big one. Right. So I would say that you're able to do that with whatever kind of conversation that you want. But I think if you potentially try to, in your next conversation, find a problem, offer a solution, and just wrap it all up in one price with our monthly bill, your new monthly bill is going to be $385. That's going to be a quick, easy win for you. That's going to propel you to be able to have a bigger conversation for the future that now you have confidence for.
I love it. Find a quick win. Find a win. Find a way to win. I think that's huge. And I think it really puts a focus on kind of working smart.
Yeah.
Like be proactive. Look for opportunities that you feel like are slam dunks. And the beauty of this business that we're in the multi-line insurance space, is that a lot of the times, whether it's a renewal, maybe it's a discount,
Sure.
a lot of times we can get them a coverage, a starter policy, and their bill may not even change because the discounts offset that.
Sure. That happens every day in my office, every single day that happens.
Yes.
So it's possible. And just get out of that, oh, I can't do it. Jordan can do it because that was my first year. This area is like not a very socially, economically high area, so it's like, and we can still do it. We still do it, right? And it's like, I didn't have any experience. I was on the phone with Life Company for hours, right? I still talk to the TMP coaches on teams daily because I don't know all the answers, right? And it's like, I still don't know it, but I just think that you just keep going. You just find it within yourself to just push. And then once you get that yes, it will all the no's will start to disappear, right? All of that baggage from the nose will start to disappear, which will be very important for you to continue.
And I think just understanding that this is an emotional roller coaster, right? Like you're going to have days that you don't write anything.
Yeah.
You might even have a couple days in a row where you don't write anything. And that's hard. It's hard, right? But you're also going to have days where you write 5. Right. And so one thing that I've learned too, that I think helps with this mindset, is to think in terms of weeks, not days.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, culture could go Monday through Thursday and not sell a single life insurance policy, but on Friday, is it possible that I could write 6? Oh my word.
Absolutely.
Yes. And so it's just think in terms of weeks, not days. I really think, I keep going back to this, and I think this is a principle that I have always adopted or lived, and I think it's helped me tremendously. And it's really just to not give pain a voice.
Mm-hmm.
Don't complain. Don't vocalize your complaining. Don't vocalize these limiting beliefs, or, well, Jordan can do it because of this reason, or so-and-so can do it because they have this better opportunity. Get that out. It might be in your mind, but don't give it a voice. Do not give it a voice, because it's just not true. And you're just actually your own worst enemy at that point, right? So Jordan, this has been awesome. I guess last question, looking ahead, what's next for you? How do we keep growing from here?
I was going to say retire early. No, I'm just kidding. Well, so it's so funny because in the end of 2023, at my annual review with my agent Will, he was telling me okay, we're gonna go into this life specialist role. Let's think about some annual goals, right? And so he said maybe hit travel, maybe. And I threw out as a joke, yeah, I'll write 100 apps as a joke. And then we both laughed. And then and then I went and did 100 apps. And so, which is so funny. So it's one, never sell yourself short. But I don't know what's next for me. I'm just going to keep grinding. I think I'm just going to try to do twice as much as I did last year, hopefully. I don't know if that's possible, but we'll see. Because I may laugh about myself at it now, but it's I was laughing, at the end of 2023 when I said 100 apps, and then here we are 100 apps later, right? And it's I already had it, thankfully, I already had a great year so far. So my goal is just to get better at having good conversations that make a lasting impact on the insured in a way where it's where it wouldn't make sense for them to say no. I want to be where I'm more surprised by the no than I am the yes, right? I want to obviously improving my closing ratio, but I want to have a conversation where if somebody tells me no, they walk away and they can't sleep for 3 days because they're okay, crap. Well, now what happens? Okay, what happens if I don't do that and something happens to me? I want that to be the goal, right? Where it's I make such a good argument that it wouldn't make sense but to say yes. And so I also want to get better at some short-term disability policies too. So that's something that is a goal for me in 2025. But yeah, we'll see. I'm just going to keep trying my best and keep showing up and see what happens.
I love it. And Jordan, I think what you said, like you guys laughed when you said, I'm going to do 100 apps. I've been there. I remember I was in a meeting with my agent, or I guess it was our whole office. And I came off of a year where I did 123 life apps.
Awesome.
I was the top producer in Utah, which was fun. It was
Wow,
cool.
that's awesome.
But I remember in this meeting, my agent was like, he was recognizing me in front of our office, which was fun. But then he said, like, do you have anything to say? Kind of like you, Jordan. I don't know why I said it or what got to me that made me say this, but I said, well, I'm going to double it this year. And I remember after I said it, I was like, oh no.
Like
What
regretting,
did
like,
I
what
just
the
commit
heck is that?
myself to, right? Like, how am I going to do that? How am I going to double this, right?
Yeah.
Because in my mind, the year before, I wrote 10 life apps. And I'll tell you, I felt like if you would have told me you're going to write 123 the next year, I would have probably laughed. I would not have been able to have understood it. And I would not have been able, I wouldn't have thought that it would have been possible. I thought it would have been like a funny joke, right? Because I just wrote 10. How am I supposed to go to
Yeah.
10 to 123? But I think what happened is when I called my shot, all of a sudden I took it a little bit more serious. All of a sudden I put it out there that that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
And all of a sudden my mindset, my energy, everything in me wanted to go out and make that happen. And I ended up doing 231 life apps the next year. So I didn't quite double it, but I was fairly
Huge.
close.
Huge. Yeah.
And so, Jordan, I believe that you can do 200 life apps this year. I believe that you can do $200,000 in annual life insurance premium this year. And I think a question to ask for everybody listening to this is like, what's that next level for you? Stop like trying to do 20%
Yeah.
better than you did last year. Do
Right.
something that's going to make you change the way you do things so you can now all of a sudden have higher leverage for your time, right? And
Yeah.
Jordan, I love that you're like, I want to do double. That's crazy. Guys, pay attention to this because this is big. But I think it gets us to think about like what needs to happen for me to get there. And
Yeah.
asking yourself, like, why can't I do 200 life apps this year? Why can't I do $200,000 in annual life insurance premium this year? You'll start to understand like, well, these are all the things that are actually getting in my way from this. Okay, well, how could I? Well, I've got to get really dialed with my systems and my processes, right? We rise to the level of our systems, not our goals. I've
Yeah.
got to really hone in my communication skills. I've got to get, a more persistent in my follow-up. You'll start to understand like where maybe the holes are in your process or your system where you can focus to then get you to that next level. So Jordan, I'm looking forward to 2025, 200 apps, 200,000 in premium. Hey, it's possible. And
Hey,
here's the thing, guys, if Jordan can do it, then so can you. I hope you picked up on that. That is the mindset we want to develop amongst all of the negativity, all of the self-doubt, all of that. It goes on in our minds. It's going to come in your mind, every day. Choose to develop the mindset, well, if Jordan can do it, then so can I.
yeah.
Things start to change in a beautiful way. So, Jordan, you have been awesome. This has been incredible. I know a lot of people are going to find a lot of value from this,
Oh, good.
and we're looking forward to seeing you crush 2025.
No, I'm thankful, Coulter. I tell everybody all the time that everything that I've ever learned is from you and from TMP. So I appreciate everything that you've done for me because, my confidence has changed, my ability to do this has changed, my income's changed, everything has changed. So I super appreciate it also. So thank you.
We love having you. And for those of you that, after this, if you're like, I want to learn a little bit more about this TMP thing, this team member perspective thing, and what you guys do. And, maybe if you could help me and my agency, just click the description, connect with us, and just see if it might be a good fit because who knows, it might, but it might not.
It will. It will.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jordan. And thank you for everybody that has tuned in, and we will catch you in the next one.